Goku on Yardrat. A full year has passed, and the power of the Dragon Balls has been restored. Fulfilling their promise, the Z-Warriors summon the dragon and wish Goku back to life. But they are shocked to learn that the dragon cannot grant this wish. Goku is still alive. Mere seconds before planet Namek exploded, Goku escaped in a Ginyu space pod, only to crash on a mysterious alien planet. For the last year, he has lived among the strange inhabitants of the planet Yardrat, studying and mastering their fighting techniques. And now, as he prepares to embark on the long and difficult journey home, he must put those skills to the test.
It is time to fight Soba, and Soba doesn't get any unique voice clips because he is exclusive to this game, and thus not very important. He never appears anywhere else in any other Dragon Ball Z media. So if you wanted exclusive Dragon Ball Z content, DBZ Sagas is your place. I also think this is the only Dragon Ball game to contain Yardrat as a playable level. I mean, calling it a level might be a bit of a stretch, but still, it's here. It's never really explained why we're fighting Soba. At first I assumed he was a bad guy because he looks kinda sinister, but upon further reflection, maybe he's just a friendly Yardrat that we're fighting as a final test before we leave. I'm not sure why the Yardrats would want to test us, but that makes about as much sense as anything else I could think of. Now about Soba as a fight, there are a few things about him that are worth talking about. One of them is that he blocks a lot. Another one is that he can turn into smoke and become invincible. And lastly, he can summon minions just like Nappa. His minions are tiny shark-like creatures, and they're more of an annoyance than anything. Soba's actually capable of dealing some pretty significant damage if he gets combos out on you. He is possible to stun lock as with almost every other boss in the game, unless he starts turning invisible. Then you just kinda have to wait. He's smart enough to wait until you finish your combo before he strikes back, too. Whenever you see us recovering in mid-air like that, that's also an upgrade I had to buy. If you think Soba's health is decreasing rather slowly, I don't disagree with you, but you'll also notice we still have our Super Saiyan meter down there. And this time we can actually deal damage to Soba while it's not turned on, which is a massive improvement from that fight with Frieza, which was just annoying. See, his health's almost halfway down. Now, as with Frieza, we just need to distract him long enough for us to actually transform. And I'm going to use that uppercut attack for it. It gets the job done. Now we'll deal so much damage that Soba's basically just a complete joke. I think actually fighting a battle on Yardrat adds to the surreal quality of the game. Because for the most part, Dragon Ball doesn't even have to acknowledge that Yardrat exists. It was there, it did what it was supposed to do, and then it was gone.
Future of Trunks. Months later, the Z-Warriors are startled to sense a familiar presence on its way to Earth. Could this power be Goku finally returning home? Rushing to the scene, the Z-Warriors are horrified to discover the source of this disturbance. Frieza and his father, King Cold. Frieza somehow managed to survive the destruction of Namek, and now he and his father have come to Earth in search of revenge. But before they can enact their twisted plan, they are confronted by a mysterious youth. In a bold display of Super Saiyan power, this brash young warrior easily dispatches the evil father-son duo. But who could he be? He is Trunks, future son of Bulma and Vegeta, and he has traveled through time to give the Z-Warriors a dire warning. In 3 short years, a pair of evil, seemingly unstoppable androids, created by the insane Dr. Gero, will carve a path of destruction across the Earth. None who cross this path survive. A painful lesson Trunks has been forced to learn time and again. The world of Trunks' future is a world of fear. A world forced to live under the dark shadows of the cold-blooded android. Few heroes are left to combat the threat. Goku succumbed to a deadly heart virus prior to the android's arrival. Without their greatest fighter to aid their struggle, the remaining Z Warriors, Piccolo, Vegeta, Yamcha, Tien, Krillin, all fell before the android's awesome power. Only Gohan remains, and it is he who has begun teaching Trunks to harness his Super Saiyan powers. Together, the two hope they might still have a chance to defeat the androids and return peace to the Earth.
Welcome to my least favorite saga in the game, which is ironically because it's the most straight up brawling saga. It's just two really long levels with robots, and yet more robots. And these robots fire a lot more frequently than any other enemies with projectiles in the game. They also have a really cool feature which I'm trying to demonstrate here, which is limb damage. You can blow off the top half of their body entirely. As you see, we have two pairs of legs running around. And that's actually kind of cool. They can still kick you without their upper bodies, but they can no longer fire at you, so it also has some utility if you really want to do that. This isn't exactly the most convenient strategy for defeating them, though. We'll get into that shortly. Also, it's definitely possible to smash these androids into the background because a lot of the buildings count as destructible objects. Only problem is it's so hard to trigger. This right here is the optimum strategy for fighting the androids. None of that teleporting junk, just stay back as far as possible and spam the burning attack at them until they go down. Our key meter is large enough that we can spam quite a few of those, and if we hit all of them at least one time, then we'll cause body damage and leave them with very little health left. Hopefully disabling their lasers in the process, since their lasers fire from their head. So if you want to remove everything challenging about them right at the start, as soon as they spawn, just spam your special attack. And that's pretty much all I'm going to do for every fight in this saga, which may sound really boring because it is, but I'd still like to point out the positives about it. Some of the game mechanics are actually good enough that I implemented them into my strategy. For example, the fact that the androids suffer limb damage, I'm taking full advantage of that. It's a good piece of design that's easy to trigger, circumvents their lasers, which is the most dangerous thing about them, and it actually looks pretty cool to boot. So there you go, a good piece of game design in Dragon Ball Z Sagas. We did it, everyone. The only unfortunate side effect of this is that this is the most boring saga in the game. Whenever I used to play this game with my brother, we would always dread the Trunks saga because it's just so boring for both of us. You get to move a quarter of a street, then more robots spawn, then you turn a corner and walk down a different street and more robots spawn. Now you can say whatever you like about the environmental variety in earlier sagas, but it was there. You know, nothing felt copy-paste about it. You may remember there was a secondary objective for this stage, though. We have to find the antidote for Goku's heart virus. And this is a little awkward because Trunks didn't just find the antidote lying around on the street, but that's what we're doing here. I would also really like to call bullshit on the fact that we're playing this level with Trunks by himself. There is no way that Gohan would ever let Trunks do this solo. I also don't think it's fair that we have to play as Trunks for this part. If you play as Gohan for this section, you get your Super Saiyan powers. But in single player you don't get a choice. And all I can imagine is how much faster this level would go if I had access to that ability. I mean, it would take a really long time for me to get the ability, yeah. Because I'd have to do so many combos on so many androids, but it would still go faster in the end, I think. We're only going to be playing this level until we get the antidote, and then we're going to skip to the boss fight. And if you're wondering how we can tell where the antidote is exactly, well, it appears on the radar like the Dragon Balls, as you're about to see. For some reason it's in this random car. But that's not important. The important thing is that I'm not going to make you suffer through the rest of this level.
I'm going to get you.
That may be the least menacing delivery possible. So the thing with Android 17 is that he can recover from knockback just like us, and sometimes he takes this opportunity to fly into the air. Fortunately, when he does this, we can teleport to him and, knock him back down. Now usually when he teleports into the air he fires more than a single blast like that, but not this time. In case it's not obvious, we're using the same strategy we do with most of the other bosses, just spamming our longest combo as soon as he gets back up. We can also spam our combo on him as soon as he recovers in the air, which he's done quite a few times. But sometimes he's too fast for us and manages to fly away. Like right here. Now for some reason every single blast missed, but that's the only attack of his worth showing, so I'm glad we got to see it before the fight was over.
After Gohan suffers a near-fatal defeat by the androids, Trunks rushes his injured master back to his mother's underground home. Though his body is shattered and one of his arms lost, Bulma is slowly but surely able to nurse him back to health. Last hope. Once recovered, Gohan resumes his training of Trunks, and for a time, the two were able to work in relative peace. But when the androids launch a sudden attack on a nearby city, the time for training is over, and the time for action has come.
I find it's a lot easier to appreciate the darker and moodier atmosphere of this one, as well as the more interesting ways that the enemies will spawn. There's also occasionally lightning that flashes on screen, and even though it really hurts my eyes, that probably adds to the mood a little bit. For whatever reason, these stronger, more durable androids seem less likely to spam their shots at you. I'm not quite sure what led to that decision, maybe it was an accident of some sort. Whatever the reason, the end result is that these androids are somewhat easier to fight, but the game makes up for it by making this level so much longer. That wasn't really a compliment in case it was hard to tell, and I realize it might have been hard to tell. So as a result, not only are the enemies less interesting, but the stage is less interesting because it drags on longer. This could have easily been saved if they would have let Trunks use his sword, though. I feel the need to tell you, before I forget, although I have a glitch handy for the end of almost every one of these videos, I don't have one for this video. These levels contain my second favorite glitch, which has only happened to me twice, where it's possible to get an android either stuck in Trunks' arm or leg after he punches them, and then it will be impossible to finish killing the android because it's still alive, it's just stuck to Trunks' character model now. And I really wanted to replicate that, but I couldn't do it. And like hell I'm gonna spend another hour and a half punching androids. So in place of Dragon Balls or medicine this time, we are searching for turbines for the time machine, which also shouldn't just be hanging out here in the city. Maybe the idea is that we're searching for scrap that we can use to build the time machine, but no, it's clearly just the actual turbines directly from the machine. So someone put them out here for some reason after Bulma had already built them. I do like the explosions in this game, there's no way around that. They put a lot of work into these explosion effects. Now the attack effects are rather lackluster, but being able to send these androids flying when you blast them at close range is kind of fun. I don't know, I mean, all things considered, there is a lot about this game's visual design to appreciate, even if it's not the most gorgeous game. Do you think those hilarious over-the-top attack animations got there by themselves? No, someone had to do that. The HUD is also very clean. I appreciate how far out the camera is zoomed so that we get a clear angle on the action at all times. The fixed camera is never a problem in this game. I hear people complaining about fixed cameras a lot, not an issue with this one. The color of the life bar reminds me a little bit of some strange cough medicine, and I'm officially out of positive things to say about the game. It takes a while longer, but eventually, if we're persistent enough, we will come across a new enemy type. He's pretty sturdy, about as sturdy as those big Cybermen from the Saiyan Saga. But he has backup. Backup that is smart enough to fly away from you when you try and chase it. So we're going to want to get rid of his buddies first so they won't shoot us in the back. As you're seeing here, the artificial intelligence for the big enemy is rather slow and bumbling. Like, it'll just follow us around like a big dope, and it looks incredibly comedic. It does actually have some attacks up its sleeve, but whether it will actually use them, I can't tell you. It's not looking good, though. I'm probably gonna kill it. Yeah, I'm gonna kill it before it can do anything. But don't worry, we'll see this enemy again at least a couple of times. And one of those times is immediately, because the game forgets that it used to let you walk a couple of feet before spawning more enemies. The big enemy spends a rather remarkable amount of time in the air. Maybe that's because it refuses to land on top of us, but it seems like it's actively trying to stay on top of us. And again, it seemed like it's wasted its entire life just standing around staring at us stupidly and not taking action. I always love how in this section you can see that robots spawned way in the background before they were supposed to. You know, there's this kind of ever-present fear throughout this game, but in these stages in particular, where the game is just going to break in such a way as to make the level unfinishable and you'll have to do the whole thing again. That sense of dread never goes away. Usually the game is courteous enough to break early on in the level, but sometimes it's the second to last enemy. I wonder what Avalanche Studio could have done with this game if they were given more time and budget. Because I feel like they had a lot of good ideas here, and this is a rather unique action game for the time period. It is distinctly not a character action game, but it's also weird for a beat-em-up, right? And how many other beat-em-ups can you teleport around the screen to your enemies, or fire lasers? Oh man, it just occurred to me, I should probably say it's really impressive that they managed to include co-op play, because testing for multiplayer is really difficult, especially when you're on a tight budget and tight time constraints.
I'm going to get you.
I'm just getting started.
So this time it's a tag team battle between Android 17 and 18, and their only interesting attack is the same one from last time. They're basically complete clones of each other, so all this means is that the first fight with Android 17 is now twice as long due to the addition of his clone, Android 18. It's kinda cute that the game tried to trick me into thinking there was a difference, but no, there isn't. They do exactly the same thing. If there is a difference, it's that they do it more often now. Whether that's a good thing, I'll leave up to you. For me, the attack mostly feels like a time waster, like those multiple explosions Vegeta used, but what are you gonna do?
Go back to the past and help Goku.
This
I
is
won't
the
give
dark
up.
world Trunks left behind. And this is a future he now hopes to prevent.